Hello, my name is Billy Bob Harris, and welcome to Connecting the Dots. You know, I love all international celebrities. Now, I don't know but one of them, and she is at the top of the list. Our guest today is Sandra Brown, novelist. Welcome to our show, Sandra.
Oh, thank you so much, Billy Bob, for asking me to take part in this. It's very exciting for me. And I consider myself a lot of things, an international celebrity.
Well,
doesn't immediately spring to my mind.
Let me tell you something.
But thank you.
When I finish these three things right now, I'm going to prove my point, okay? Your statistics are staggering. 72 New York Times bestsellers, about 80 million books in print in 34 different languages.
Yeah.
Now that is an international celebrity.
Well, thank you. Don't ask me to name those 34 languages. I didn't even know there were 34 languages.
I wonder how that translates. Like you say in English, I wonder how. Do you know which ones they are?
Sometimes I do, but more often than not, they're not the same covers. They're published by, publishers all over the world. So I'll get a copy and I'll go, wonder what this
means.
And I have to look on the copyright page. And on the copyright page, the title will be there. And just this week, I got an email from, I think it was my Romanian publisher, and I'm a bestseller in Romania as well. A lot of those Eastern Bloc countries that opened up just as my career was burgeoning. And so I was one of the first American authors that they had access to in, 3 decades. So anyway, got an email from them, and my title, Outfox, did not have equivalent phrase in Romanian. And so they had to come up with a title, and they were telling me, it's this and it means this, and I said that go with it.
Go with it, whatever it is.
Whatever is going to appeal to the readers, fine with me.
Sandra, all of these incredible statistics, and you started out in TV.
Yeah. Obviously, it wasn't very good. I had to find another avenue of endeavor. No, I, as you know, worked for Channel 8. I was married to Michael, had been for, I don't know how many years at that point, and we had 2 children. They were toddlers at the time, and I was working on PM Magazine. And I think you worked on there for a while. Did you?
I did the stock market report on that.
Yeah. Okay. So but one day they came through and said, we need all fresh faces. And I was crushed, not because the family was relying on me for our livelihood, but because it was a creative outlet. It was fun and got me out of the house. And so I started looking around, and all of my peers were members of this women's club, that women's club. They did this, they did that, and I thought, this doesn't sound like me. It just didn't feel right.
Yeah.
And so Michael said, you've got time and opportunity to do something you've always said you wanted to do, which is to try your hand at writing fiction. And I didn't know that I could do it, but he set up a card table in the spare room, and I bought a typewriter. That's how long ago it was.
Okay.
And a ream of paper, and that's when I started. So getting fired was
a blessing.
A blessing in disguise. It truly was.
Well, now, Sandra,
a point in my life.
You got a degree in English, correct?
Yeah, I did not get a degree in English. I was an English major.
Oh, I see. Okay.
School to get married.
Okay, I understand.
Which I would have killed my kids if they had done that. But this was way back when.
Yeah. Okay.
And so Michael and I married, and I continued to take college courses, but while he was in the Army and everything, but I never earned my degree. And then TCU, about 10 years ago, awarded me with a
Nice,
doctorate
a nice
in
title.
humane
Tell us
letters.
about that.
And
Okay.
so I was that was one of the biggest surprises in my life, but it was also just terribly satisfying and rewarding, and to both of us, to Michael too, because he always felt like he had robbed me
Yeah.
of getting a degree. But in any case, I'm now Dr. Brown,
Okay,
GQ.
we can do
So,
that. Okay, now let me ask something. When you were young, like in a teenager, did you have tendencies to write stories? Was this kind of in your DNA, or did you just really not think about it till you got that exit from Channel 8?
well, it is definitely in my DNA. My father was an editorial writer for the Fort Worth Star-Telegram. And so I learned, I think, the discipline required to write. Of course, he wrote nonfiction, but he had to produce, a 500 or 600 word editorial every day. And so I saw Daddy go to work and come home, and he would have written something that was published the next day. And my mother was adored her, and she was a romantic, and she was an educator, but she read to my sisters and me from the earliest memory that I have, and told stories and loved stories telling. So I really am a product of the two people.
The
She
environment,
instilled
yeah.
in me this love of books and storytelling and adventure stories. And Daddy was the craftsman.
Yeah.
He had to craft an article every day. So
Yeah.
there I am.
It's-
I was, as I said, an English major, and so the English composition classes came easy to me. I didn't see what everybody was complaining about. That I made A's easily. And it was only later that I started thinking, I would really like to do this. I
Yeah.
think it'd be awesome, to
Yeah.
write a book.
But Sandra, where does all this? I mean, these creative ideas, they continue to come from this fountain of ideas.
I'd call it more of a trickle.
Well, I don't think so. With 72 New York
Fountain.
Times bestsellers, I don't think so.
Well, it's a difficult question to answer, because the truth of it is, Billy Bob, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I don't know where the ideas come from. If I knew that, that's what I would sell. I wouldn't have to write the books, but for each book there's a backstory, a story that tells about how I came up with the idea. Just as a for instance, because Thick as Thieves
Okay.
is my latest and my 72nd New York Times bestseller. I was sitting at my desk doing something else entirely one day, and I just all of a sudden was in the middle of this scene. And I was there with these four people who had just stolen a pouch of money, and they were trying to figure out what they were going to do from this point forward to keep from getting caught. And I thought, I heard one of them say, the first line of the book is, talking about it is a surefire way to get caught. And I thought, who said that? What's going on here? And I got into that scene. I was in that scene, and I went to my keyboard, sat down, started writing down what I heard them say, what I saw them do, what I smelled, what it felt like.
Oh, my
And
gosh.
by the end of 7 pages, I had a prologue. And it was an intriguing prologue, I thought.
I guess so.
And so I sent it to my editor and said, what do you think? He said, gosh, I love it. He said, I can't wait to find out what happens. And I said, well, that makes 2 of us, because I don't know either.
Yeah.
But and then with a story about Fox, I started with a character, a con man. I wanted to write a story about one of these men who gets away with conning women for years and changes his identity, his whole persona. So it makes it almost impossible for him to be caught. And I thought that'd be an interesting character to write about. So with each book, it
It's
has
different.
its own origin and has its own personality.
Yeah. Well, Sandra, I have a lot of friends that are songwriters, but they get
Oh,
most of their inspiration from real life experiences. We can't say that about you.
I wish.
Yeah. These just like the con man, like it's just
Yeah.
amazing that
People who have known me for a long, long time, even as I was a child or a teenager, young adult, young mother, and they read the books and they're like, where did this come from? What, how in the world did you know to write this? And I said, I guess there is within every author who does write fiction, it has to be just that creative impulse. It has to be maybe deep embedded desire to play all the different roles, but largely it's make believe. I have the best job in the world. I get to
that's
make believe
yeah,
for a living.
that's that.
And so 99% of my workday is spent staring into space. It's so I think that I can't even tell you where the characters come from. I don't base them on anybody I know. I don't envision an actor that's going to play the part
Because
because my
a lot of them been made into movies for TV.
four,
Okay,
yeah.
well, you don't ever think about that. You
No,
just write it.
no, I write the book. I'm not a script writer and I don't make movies. They wouldn't let me because I'd want to be in charge of everything. but but I don't, when I'm telling my story, I'm not envisioning someone else's face on my character. My character, I see my character and I know what they look like. And so then when someone asks me, I have fans ask all the time, say, oh, I'd love to see Drex, or I would love to. Who do you think could play him? Who could play Ledge? And I'm going, hadn't even thought about that
Yeah,
because I really don't. I see them as themselves.
yeah. And something else that I found out about, you have a big following from the military.
Mm, yeah, I'm very fortunate. I get really sweet, dear correspondences from service members, men and women. Um, I was invited in 2011 to go on a USO tour to Afghanistan, which was daunting to even contemplate. But when I was asked, I said, gosh, gee, let me think about it. And I immediately hung up my cell phone and I called Michael and I said, I just got the most extraordinary phone call. And I told him, and he said, well, you're going, aren't you? And I thought, that was the reaction that I really wanted to
Uh huh.
hear, to have.
Yes.
And it was amazing. It was the most
What was it like?
fascinating.
What was your reception like? I mean, when you
Oh,
got there, what did?
there's so, and of course, I told us that I went with four other authors, one other female, Kathy Wrights, who writes the Bones series,
Uh-huh.
and three military writers, the Mark Bowden, who wrote Black Hawk Down, and Clive Cussler, who wrote naval books, military books, his entire career, and so. Uh, when we went over there, one of the jokes I would make, we'd walk in, they would hold receptions for us, and it was meet and greet, bring your books to be signed, things like that.
Hmm.
And I said, we're really the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. We're just traveling incognito. And I was told on more than one occasion, well, it's working. The disguise
Just
is
keep on.
working.
Let's just keep on. Sandra, what does if you have a regular day, what does a regular day look like for you?
Well, I'm not all fluffed up like I am to see you.
Okay.
But I go to work every day, just about every day. I do have an office outside the home, two full-time employees that do everything but write the books.
Okay.
But we've closed the office because of COVID. And so we're all working from home. In my home office, I kind of shuffle to work in my sweats and sit at the keyboard all day and wait to see what's going to happen. Typically, I write about 5 hours a day. If I get in 5 good hours, that's a good day. And I don't really count pages as my output. I count how I quantify the day is how I feel about it when I walk out of the office. If I think, oh gosh, I'm never going to have another good idea, I'm never going to write another good sentence. People are going to find I'm an enormous imposter. It's got me
Oh,
away. I've fooled everybody
yeah,
for all these
I
years.
think since the 80s, that's not going to happen whatsoever. But you get
And
writers.
then other days it's like, that I liked that scene I wrote. So, and then I may fly through a chapter and not even realize I've written 8 or 10 pages. And then other days, it's just not flowing that well, but I keep at it. I put in the hours. I don't ever surrender to it.
Yeah.
Because I think if I did that, I'd never write another word. The fear factor
Yeah.
would govern me. I just keep slogging through it. And typically, it's not quite as bad as I thought it was going to be. And if I've got something there, I've got something I can fix, something I can work with.
Okay. With your efforts and with your past, I hope in the future you and I sit down and we have another interview starting from today on
Yeah.
what's happened in between,
Yeah.
your success that you've had in between. Because
Oh, well, thank you.
Sandra, you have a lot of energy, you work hard, you've got talent, you're a bunch of fun,
Thank you.
and best of all, you're a really good person.
Oh, well, thank you. I've been enormously blessed. I don't it's a very enviable position for someone to be able to do what they love to do and make a living at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
And I know what a gift that is. And I don't take it for granted. I do work very, very hard, put in long hours for long years. I've done this, but I know how fortunate I've been too. I've had a fortunate partner who has shared me with a very demanding career that's not an 8-hour day career. It's a 24-hour a day career. And that's because my mind is always, in another place and time. And Michael has been incredibly supportive and encouraging all these years. So I thank you for all the accolades. But
I left one out.
I share this with a lot of other people. I share it with good editors and my agent and my family. So
I left one of those accolades out. Gratitude. You're wonderful. Thank you for coming on our show and giving us your time.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
I loved every minute. Thank you.
Okay, so bye-bye.